story. I've been literally doing this for almost 30 years. I started working as a trainer. I got my first weight set when I was in middle school. And even back then, I should have known, you know, I had all my buddies coming over and working out with me back then because I was the most consistent guy, came up with these workouts. And so I developed real early on, got into working out because it empowered me, changed my life, changed my confidence. And that's certainly part of what working out is. But over the 30 years, what I do for people becomes completely different, and it's kind of changed. As a matter of fact, when people, if I go to a social event with people and I'm their trainer or coach, they go, "Hey, this is Victor. He's they go, I don't exactly know how do you define yourself these days?" And so strength training coach, wellness coach, trauma coach, now I've added meditation coach as well, is now getting thrown into the mix. And this is what really defines and changes everything that we're currently doing in health and wellness. If we look at numbers, and I'll get into some of these things as we move along, just to kind of give you an idea. Now, you are completely capable of doing this all yourself. Absolutely is. All of it, all the pieces are there. And I'm going to give you all of it because in the end, that's really how I'm wired. Here, this is all right here. You can do it. If you need the help and accountability, well, that's obviously where I come in and made a living out of doing it. But I'm going to make sure that you have an understanding at the end of this, like, all right, this is how we need to do it. We're going to keep yourselves in, we're going to keep each other in check this way. If you want to do it with someone else or create your own group, then that usually is really what makes people successful. If you're a go-getter and you have the ability to keep yourself accountable, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do it. But a lot of people feel like, well, you know, I just got to eat a low-fat diet and work out, and that's it. Boom, I'm done. And that's kind of how I started when I was in my 20s, you know, 19 years old, working as a trainer in a commercial gym. That's what I thought my job was. My job was to create the hardest workouts for people so they got all these gains. And eventually I just thought these people were, ultimately, how do I put this? They were lying to me when I said, "Hey, how's your eating?" And they go, "This is what I ate." And I go, "Well, they must be lying to me because they're not getting results." Little did I know that they were being completely honest. And what we weren't managing when I was in my early 20s is how much stress played a significant role. Dis-ease, and I use that word very carefully. I'm not saying disease. I say dis-ease. We put those two words together. If people are in dis-ease, that has a greater role on their health and wellness. Now, I'm not here to tell you like, you just got to offload all your stress. Well, that's not realistic either. But how our body interprets stress, whether it's in the way of trauma, whatever we went through, or what we're currently doing. You know, this is a stress, actually me recording this is stressful for me as well, right? Because I don't have the ability to see the people. I do wonderful in front of people. So it causes a little bit of anxiety, but it's an empowered stress and I'm choosing it. So how it impacts our body is completely different. All right, let's see if I can, the next slide here. All right, so let's get into some numbers. And I'll go obviously more into a little bit of our story. I've been doing this for 30 years. Like I said, started off at 19, working in a commercial gym. After a year of doing that, Robin and I, actually funny story, if you didn't already know, I was a business major at San Diego State until my wife, who was then my girlfriend, or Robin was my girlfriend back then, walked me straight over. She's like, "You're a business major, you're falling asleep in your econ classes. Like, what are you doing? Just go health, fitness, and nutrition and be done with it." I'm like, I don't, you know, my parents have expectations. They want me to be a business person. She walked me straight over and she walks in the office and says, "Hi, this guy's a business major. He needs to be a kinesiology major. Can you guys take care of that?" And she walked out. And if you guys know Robin at all times, she always kind of pushes me over the cliff into some of these things that I probably would reluctantly go into. And so that kind of changed my trajectory in life. And after a year of being in a commercial industry, the commercial fitness industry, I'm like, man, I got to know the owner of that facility and he could care less about the people that he had joined the gym. As a matter of fact, if you join a commercial gym in general, like once they get that check, they don't want you to come in because if everyone shows in at once, they got a problem, shows up at once. And obviously, depending on where you're at right now, the way gyms look are completely different. You don't necessarily need that. And so Robin and I decided to open our own facility. And I knew that I was going to bring in, okay, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to open a facility where I actually get to know my clients. And then I'm going to input what I've learned. Little did I know how much things were going to change and how much I needed to change with my people. So these are the current numbers as they stand. And this kind of gets a little scary, right? 50% of Americans right now are obese. Now, this is not overweight. You can see the overweight problem. And so we can trace some of what we're seeing in the human body and dis-ease, discomfort, chronic disease based on just carrying a little like too much weight. Now, we're not talking like half of Americans are beyond that, right? 19% of our children are obese. And this is a great time for me to do a little segue. So if you didn't already know, we ran a personal training studio in Coronado, California for 20 years. And we also did it simultaneously as teach gymnastics. And what I saw in 1997 when we opened up our doors there, and what I saw when we closed our doors and 20 years later was shocking as to the kids' capabilities. And I always do this. I share this story with you, not to say like, hey, this is a major problem. This is just to tell you where the state is. In 1997, at the end of a workout, the children that were in there, 5, 6, 7 years old, we could usually do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and some kind of mixture of abdominals at the end of the workout, which we pieced together, but totally feasible for a 5, 6, 7-year-old. All right, we're going to do 100 push-ups. Let's do 10, rest. At the end, when I closed the doors in our business, children were having trouble just holding a high plank. And this goes to show you how not only strength changes, but the weight that they were carrying. And these are generally kids that are more fit than the average because they signed up for a gymnastics class. And so what we're seeing here is a complete failure of our current system. The fitness industry in general makes fit people fitter. They don't really get more people moving because otherwise these numbers wouldn't be where they're at. 66% of Americans are on some kind of prescription medication, all of which can be completely changed. And Chapel Hill came out with a study right now that only 12% of Americans have a functioning metabolic system. And this goes to kind of tell you where we're at, potentially what some of the frustrations you're feeling, like, hey, everything's bothering my stomach, my hormones feel off, very, very normal. It's something that we've been dealing with for a significant amount of time, and why you might feel that like, I can't get a hold of this, right? So we have a mind and body connection. So most of what we just saw can be preventable. And if you look at the slide here, this is American Heart Association, what the numbers look like. Heart disease and cancer make up over significant amounts. Now, cancer is not something that's out there searching for you. And it's like, oh man, I just got the cancer. No, it's completely preventable based on your lifestyle, your habits, and your thoughts. And I'll go into this a little bit later. If you look on the left there, it says your thoughts, food, and body all make up what's happening. If you are giving yourself, you can literally make yourself ill. Now, most people can actually have a little logical input and go, yeah, if I feel really bad and I'm really pissed off long enough, what happens? You don't feel so hot. The problem is that most of our thought process is happening on a subconscious level. And so sometimes it's my job when I'm dealing with clients, like try to bring that out, like, hey, how do you feel? I'm good, man. And I have to interpret that when a person walks in and they go, hey, how are you? Good. And then I go scratch at the surface, and it's clear that not necessarily everyone is observing all of their thoughts. Now, if something happens at work and you're upset and you go, that's a trigger. But a lot of those thoughts are deep subconscious thoughts, and we have to work into that. And one of the most powerful things going from thoughts to food, your food is medicine. Your food can be medicine. A lot of people really we say that, oh, let thy food be thy medicine. No, it's absolutely true that it can be. And you can actually enjoy your food and it can help heal you. But a lot of people have been led to believe that it's not. And so they eat in a way that makes them feel satisfied in many regards, but leaves them feeling bloated, weak, lethargic, and that can be a massive problem. And you do need to take care of the body. And it's not as complex as people make it think. I've done experiments. I like to play guinea pig with myself, especially when I'm on the road. If you didn't already know, this story is that, after we closed our business, we sold everything and hit the road. And we've been sort of nomadic for almost 7 years at this point. And with 5 kids in tow is kind of gives us a little clout and with some people like, okay, how are you doing this? And that's a lot of self-reflective work. And I'm still in the process of figuring out what's going on inside me. So I started off my career like all body. And then I went through a massive adrenal fatigue in my mid-30s. And we'll get into that a little bit as we go along. And adrenal fatigue, it's generally a wired and tired discomfort or dis-ease of the body, which includes food allergies. I remember my hormones being off. I couldn't sleep right. I was, there were all these symptoms that I would go to describe to someone like, man, I don't know what's wrong with you. Maybe we'll put you on an anti-anxiety medication or an antidepressant. And I'm like, wait, I ain't anxious and I'm not depressed. I know that something's going on. I need some help. And so that gave me a huge insight into what I needed to do, not only for myself. And actually at the time, if it wasn't for Robin, like force feeding me bone broth to try to help me get better, I probably wouldn't have made it out and had to have gone down a medicinal, more allopathic, we say, route. Now, this is not a huge knock on allopathic medicine. If you break your arm, that doctor's going to need to put a cast on it. But in general, most people know that their job is like, well, let me just prescribe something, right? And so that can be a massive problem if you have, if you're a disease and you're going with one medication, then another medication. The average adult that's at 50 is already on 2 medications, right? So we can completely heal. The body has wisdom. It can heal itself, and the medicine can help, or the food can help us stay healthy. All right. All right. So this is what I've seen. When I'm working with young adults in high school and even in their 20s, in the last 10 years of owning a facility, and these high schoolers and 20-year-olds are reporting low signs of testosterone, libido changes, I knew there was massively something wrong with our food system, the amount of pollution, EMF, whatever you call it. There is a massive problem with the overload on the human body, right? And so if you look at these numbers, men over 40 are reporting, if you look at 4 out of 10 men are reporting signs or symptoms of low testosterone. Now, why is this important? And this goes for gals too. If your endocrinology is off, you are going to feel like crap, right? If your endocrinology is off. I know I've done the work with myself and with men, and in like 2 weeks, I start to shift it just by first off cleaning off food, getting the right kind of movement, and then all of a sudden things go out, weight comes off, joy goes up. And why is this valuable? Because a lot of it is like you don't even know that it's happening to you. You think that the food that you're eating is not affecting it. Well, like it says healthy on it. It can, those estrogenics, all the food and the sourcing that we're getting, EMF is an estrogenic, right? So you know what the word estrogen is, you know that you don't need it in you as a man. So estrogenic products like shampoo, estrogenic meats, like if it's industrialized meat, and EMF in general, like too much exposure to blue light can impact your testosterone level. And you can see the numbers here as to the amount of people that are using testosterone to supplement. Totally can change. And you have to be a little more in touch. It does take a little bit of work, but you can. Now, if you are in significant stress, like high stress, your testosterone and estrogen, or testosterone estrogen balance. And when we're talking about females, it's just testosterone estrogen balance. So a lot of times females will think like, oh, well, I'm not a dude. Why are you talking testosterone? I'm like, it's testosterone estrogen balance for women and testosterone for men. Higher the stress, the more inverted the testosterone is. Now, can we negate that? Yeah, it's about creating space. Let's think about wellness or stress management as a bucket. If your bucket is overflowing, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to manage it, and it's going to have a negative impact on your testosterone. So we want to learn to control that and create space in that bucket so you have the wherewithal to continue to stay healthy. Oops, let me go back. There it is. All right. So come up with a few more numbers here before I get into the nitty gritty, guys. 77% of Americans experience some physical symptom from their stress. Now, we can go deep down the rabbit hole as to how this turns out, but this is how it breaks down. You have a stressful job, you have a racing heart rate, you have aches or pains, you have any sort of physical symptom, you're having that. Great. You can identify that physical is like it's related for that. But there are a lot of people that are reacting how we adjust to our stress. Now, this is important. I'll probably repeat it twice. How we adjust to our stress is oftentimes created when we're a child, generally between 5 and 12. For some of us, it varies a little bit. So when you are that 5 or 12, regardless, I mean, a little personal experience, a little total transparency. When I'm 5 to 12, I was basically being sexually abused by a babysitter for a prolonged period of time. So that created a stress reaction and how I react to stress from my youth. And we like to say that we deal with these things by potentially talking to someone, talking to others. That's all valuable. But our body doesn't forget. Our primal brain that sits in the back is like a reptile. And so if you get triggered, the body goes, oh, I know what to do. You're scared. Here it is. This is how we're dealing with it. And so some of that we continue to carry on into our adulthood. And so when we're overreact, even the littlest thing, some people are way more sensitive to stress. I started to get to the point where dude, I went on a roller coaster when I was going through my adrenal fatigue. I'm like, wait a second. I love roller coasters. Why is this going on? And so it forced me to ask, okay, what potentially could be going on deeper? And as I went deeper, I was able to diffuse that and enjoy a lot of things in life that I generally wouldn't. Now, one of the big things that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about is that, and I put a badge on it, it says you've been programmed to be addicted to stress in some ways. It gives us a charge. I know when I'm firing and I used to have my facility, I had sometimes some of my most popular hours of work or when I work with my female group weight training. There'll be 8 to 10 women walk in, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11. And I'm like running around. I was like, man, I get kind of a buzz from running around. But we end up getting addicted to that. And one of the easiest ways to identify that is by sort of breathing dysfunction. It's one of those big signs. I always ask people when we first evaluate, I'm like, hey, do me a favor and take 5 deep breaths. And just like I'm doing it right now, right? Now, if you naturally, and you're doing this, that is a link to a breathing dysfunction. Now, what does that mean? This kind of breathing, like you're running for a ball, they pass you a ball, you're like, yeah, let's go. Hands on the thighs, like, oh. That is a fight or flight breathing pattern. Now, why is this valuable? Because it can be linked to how you're thinking. Now, stay with me. A lot of times, how we're breathing is dictated by how we breathe. I just gave you that fight or flight response and like playing a sport. Everyone can identify with that if they've even played sports at a low level. Like on some level, someone is sitting at their computer, and I find that a lot of people have this chronic shoulder tension and they're typing away on their computer or in their everyday life, and they're in this micro. On some level, they are doing that every minute of every day. And then they go into the gym, think they're doing something good for themselves. And they're like, oh man, I'm in pain. It's because of that breathing dysfunction that they carried into it. And what's more important is that we have that sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic is that fight or flight. It's this. And we can be in that for short periods of time. But chronically being here puts us in a fight or flight response. So if you think to yourself, if you are being chased by a lion or a bear or wherever, can you think clearly? Are you thinking ahead to your life the way you want your life to go? Now, those are very simple ways to think of it. Most people would be like, well, no. And so by that token, if you have that breathing dysfunction, you are going to impact how you are thinking. And so that rest or restore, that's that parasympathetic, it's important that we shift to. And I discovered this by coming up here and spending some time working on myself and working on breath work, meditation, my yoga, and understanding like, oh man, I've been freaking myself out for no reason whatsoever. And no wonder I can't have the clarity of thought of where I want to take my clients, my business, myself, because I'm in this fight or flight response. And so it's absolutely very important that we figure out what's going on with our breathing. And that can kind of let you know if you have that addiction in some ways to the stress. And that percentage of 95% of who you are, behaviors, reactions, habits, attitudes, beliefs, is reached by the time we're 35. And that's Dr. Joe Dispenza. So you can go look him up to get a little more input. So if you are all those belief systems, you wake up in the morning and you're going through, you wash your hair the same way, you put on your clothes the same way, this is all habitual. And the problem is when it's linked potentially to a negative emotion, then all of a sudden you become what you used to say about that one older person that you potentially talk about, oh, he's always in a bad mood. Well, did he actually develop that? Is that a personality trait that he was born with, or that he developed because he didn't have, or she didn't have the wherewithal to go like, I'm redoing this and putting myself in this state? And that's very important to make that choice. And I empower you to make that choice. All right. All right. So this is a powerful image here too, guys. Ultimately, once the latest research shows is that when stress goes up, our genes responsible for immune function downregulate. So this is why it's very normal. I can give you a personal story about this. When I went through my adrenal fatigue, or right before, I found myself every freaking Friday night when I got home from work, I'd start to feel like I was getting sick. Now, this is at the peak of my business. I had 150 students, 50 clients that I was working with and juggling. And every Friday I was feeling like I was getting the flu or a cold. And that's because as the stress was going up, the genes responsible for immune function comes down. And so it can actually downregulate and affect your literally your DNA, that stress. So stress in any time, our nervous system is that fight or flight, and you create that negative emotion by external or internal, it's going to have an impact on your health. And so this goes to point to what's currently potentially happening, or how you grew up and developed. It's all good regardless of what it is. And sometimes this smacks us in the face when we're hearing some numbers like this. Don't sweat it. You can fix it. All right. So for a lot of people, I'm going to spend a little time on this slide. When I got up here, what big part of the development was going through my adrenal fatigue. I was literally I went to the ER because I was throwing heart palpitations in my mid-30s, and they were thinking to myself that I was just anxious or depressed. In the middle of all that, we got kids we're raising. I'm trying to figure out how to balance it out, still get myself to go to work. I would literally close the door at my business in Coronado and curl up into a ball and just lay there and sleep, and still always feeling unrefreshed. My gut was a mess, the anxiety, depression, all the stuff that you see in 2021, I had in my mid-30s compounded. And so I evolved to have an understanding of how to take care of people's gut health, control their cortisol. But what happened the past couple of years really propelled what I needed to learn for self and to help others. And that was like, hey, these people are literally reliving some of their trauma. I could see it. And so they'd walk into my gym, and now virtual gym, and I could see it on them that they were doing the breathing thing that I talked about. And they'd say, okay, I'm ready to work out. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not ready to work out. You need to work on this and this. Let's sit and breathe a little bit. Let's establish that. And so a lot of people I know went through last year, and everyone always says like, hey, I'm good. I got this. But is good enough? One of my things is to be able to feel other people's feelings. And so when people respond, I've always known that they're like, are you good? And they say good. I'm like, well, they're obviously not good. Let me make them good. And at the end of the hour, they're vibrating, they're creating energy. One of the biggest things I tell clients is that you don't have energy, you generate energy. And so we need to learn to create workouts that are generating an energy that just vibrates out of you so you can live your life. A workout shouldn't be about a badge of honor like, dude, I did the hardest workout. Great. Is there a place for that? Yeah, depending on how people vibrate, I can create workouts that are designed for hypertrophy and shape. And most basic workouts are going to do that. But really the sweet spot is to create a workout that's generating that response, that healthy response, and creating some results. And then from there, we adjust. Like, okay, I want a little, hey, Vic, I'm feeling good. Like, can we do a little more for chest? Yeah, we can do hypertrophy. But people fail to grasp that just doing something and just doing enough is going to create a massive change. And so most people, you see on the column lab, unmotivated, dysbiosis, and leaky gut. And leaky gut is ultimately when food particles are passing, because we're in a state of chronic stress that increases the permeability of the stomach. So this is why you feel like sometimes nothing agrees with you, because those food particles, so your stomach the lining looks like my fingers, but then it starts to flatten out and all the food particles pass into the bloodstream. And because it passes into the bloodstream, your body says, oh, let's attack it, let's attack it, let's attack it. And that's how you create a food allergy. And then that comes in with creating levels of high anxiety. And because it's creating levels of high anxiety, you're putting out extra stress hormone. And like I said, extra stress hormone goes up, testosterone goes down, voila, now you have depression and you're at the makings of like, where the heck did this start? And I don't know why. Inflammation, as that cortisol goes up, your inflammation markers go off the charts. You combine that with potentially some bad food choices because you're feeling good, you just want comfort food, snowballs, and then all of a sudden that low T, your sleep quality goes down. And because you're inflamed, you chronically feel like you're injured. And so it's all connected. And so my job as a trainer is to give people like, all right, we got to control as many tangibles. And that's my nerdy scientific side. Like, all right, let's control all these tangibles and then do the work to deprogram yourself, whatever's going on in your past, and get yourself that optimal health. And so the goal here is to help you achieve your goals, healthy weight that's good for you, have really vibrate energy, be able to put that off that people feel it, be energetic, manage your stress, get you off medications. Like I just get to the point with everyone, like I can get you off, even if it's a blood pressure. Personal story, my father and my brother have been on high blood pressure medication since their late teens. And everything showed signs like, oh, this just runs in our family. And when I was in high school, I'm like, well, that's not going to happen to me, right? That's one of those big things that was very, very important for me. And I realized that if I keep a healthy weight, I never had any trouble with my blood pressure, regardless. Interestingly enough, when I got into my heaviest powerlifting, my body weight also tended to balloon. And I had to actually question, well, why do I need to pull over 500 pounds off the ground or whatever? But I noticed that my body weight, even if it was a lot of strength, I hit a trigger point where my blood pressure started to kind of clump. Like, well, that's weird. 140 over 20, and 1 over 90. And I noticed that I'm like, well, I need to make a decision here. And so I made that decision. Getting restorative sleep, hobbies and play. And we'll get into this a little bit as we move along. Hobbies and play are critical. Why? Because they literally impact our body. So what I find is that people do pieces of this excellently. And I'll end up talking to them and they figure out what I do for a living and they start asking me questions. And I'll listen to them and I'll be like, that's awesome, that's awesome, that's awesome. And well knowing that there are things or parts of this that they're not doing. And so the challenge is to be able to reflect upon yourself and go, okay, I'm really good at this. Let's do that. But let's also bring up my weaknesses, right? All right. All right, so this is one of my favorite lines, Surfing in Health by Doc Paskowitz. One of the movies that actually changed the trajectory of our lives as I was going through my adrenal fatigue and I was also recovering. And then we moved to the beach for a very long time and we started camping a lot more. And I watched this movie called Surfwise with Robin, with Doc Paskowitz. It's about a doctor who lives with his 8 boys, 1 girl, in like a 19-foot camper. And if you look at this, it kind of lets you know, like, this is one of his favorite things to say, is that we need to essentially move. And Doc he put it bluntly, like, look, if you got you're pinching a little more than an inch, like that's too much work. You're carrying too much fat on you. And he also talked about like, look, death is not keeping track. 75% of all heart attacks happen at rest. Life thrives in movement. And if I encourage you, one thing to take away from this is like move like hell. That's like Dr. Tommy John. Move a lot. And it's in whatever way. And I discovered, one of the things that I discovered is how much I love being on a skateboard and how much my body interpreted that totally different than like going for a run. And I'm still a real big, like, hey, I'm going to go for a run. But to me, the best part of a run is when I get her done. And so it's very important that we have all different types of movement, not just exercise in the traditional way. Because again, the vast majority of the fitness industry is like, doesn't make anyone healthier. We are losing those numbers. All right. All right. So this is where, if you're starting to take notes, this is all the biohacks, the biohack section of what I'm doing here. And this gets very, very simple. Anyone that knows me I'm a big strength training guy, in big part because it can be the ability to do work, right? And work equals blank, right? All of our equations when we're preliminary doing, whether you're bench pressing or deadlifting, is the ability to do work. Now, the ability to do work allows us to also enjoy our lives. So this is why I'm big on strength training as opposed to, let's say, a HIIT workout, which has its place, because then you could take that strength training and apply it to any part of whatever you enjoy, whether that's paddleboarding, running, surfing, because then surfing itself is a training protocol. And so I've divided this up. Strength training can be broken down into a few simple things. What you see in front of you is core, prehab, push, pull, squat, hinge, lunge. And you can literally do 1, 2, 3, 4 to break down your strength training protocol. Now, this is where I kind of nerd out. So stay with me because I kind of figure out, I'm big on biomechanics. I watch people move. I personally play lots of different sports. Not that I'm great at any of them. I actually suck at a fair amount of things because I married Sporty Spice. You guys know I always have to do all sorts of different things. And she's got me doing rock climbing and things like that, that my body, I basically trained to grapple and lift heavy objects. And so I had to learn to reconfigure my program to make me more available for all of these different sports. And so when we start off with talking about core, let's think about functional ability to move. Very rarely, even as we sit up out of bed, most people don't sit up like Nosferatu straight up. We roll to our side, sit up. And so the human movement, particularly when the midsection, people think they can do crunches. Now, crunches have their place. They take you from 0% to 5%. But if I had a freaking dollar for every time someone told me how many crunches they do in a day, I'd be a rich man. But they don't give you functional core stability. So a Palloff press, ab wheel, CLF, side planks, anti-rotation, and bracing. What does that mean? It means that the core has to function as it was designed to do, to stabilize the pelvis and the torso, right? So protect the spine. And so I like movements in which we're moving and the core is having to be engaged. So for the most part, you can pick one movement or two movements if you have extra time out of each of these. Now, I'm not going to spend time tutorials. I have tutorials. I mean, it's as easy as a YouTube search. This is where we're really coming into a new era. All the information's out there. You just need to go search it and find it if you have any questions. If you don't hold yourself accountable, that's certainly where I come in as a coach, is I make sure people show up. So if you're doing Palloff presses, we're stopping the core is having to be engaged and resisting. So if anyone's ever pushed up against your shoulder and you're tightening up so that you don't get pushed over, that is a bracing technology or bracing core stability that we need for our abdominals, not tons of sit-ups, not tons of crunches. If you like them, great. Do you need them? No. My experience is that people with the strongest cores don't usually do a ton of abs. That's ironic. All right, prehabilitative. Now, how you sprinkle in prehab or rehab, and why I call it prehab is because you're doing it before you get hurt. How do you know what you should be addressing? I always look at people like, you know, because it kind of bothers you already, or you've had an ache or a pain there. And you focus a little bit on sprinkling in this. Now remember, you're going to get into a workout section, a workout routine, and you're going to go like, hey, Victor, what do I do? I'm like, well, I just said do a little core. And now you start off with your injury rehabilitative or prehabilitative. That gives us 3 or 4 movements that you've already done to manage whatever it is. If your neck's hurting you, research some of the neck rehab exercises. Back, hips, knees, and shoulders are the most common. I rarely see anyone like, oh man, I got a really bad wrist. Now, if you're occupational and you're doing this as a cash register all day, then I do see that. Ankles as well. But in general, all of those things, those rehab, that prehab, and this is part of the reason I developed my coaching is because people would come in and they'd say, hey, I have a back pain. I'm like, come in 2 weeks later, I've solved their problem. And then I go, all right, I solved your problem. What do we want to work on next? They're like, well, damn, I don't know. I don't know what else there is to me because I've been dealing with this back for 20 years and now it's gone. And then I have to kind of go like, well, what did you like growing up? Oh, well, I used to surf. Let's get you back to that. Or, I really like to work out or weight lift or, power lift. I'm like, well, we can get you back into competition. And so if you take care of that, you've done your core, you've done your prehab, figure out what that is, whether that's a knee or a hip or a back. Do 2 or 3 moves for that. Now you're warm. All right, now the push and pull. We can narrow, pushing movement could be a push-up, dip, bench press. OHP is overhead press, much like I'm sitting here. Pull-up or pull-up variation, modified pull or row. Not rocket science, but this is where I nerd out, right? To create the greatest change in the physical body, we need to send a message to the pituitary gland that this guy or this girl, they got a hard life. We got to generate muscle. And so which one you pick is which one you can do with the most technical proficiency with what you have around you. So if you don't like going to the gym, you don't need to, but what you could do with the most technical proficiency to create overload. Now, this is not saying that we're going to go like Dorian Yates, blood and guts to like, they're convulsing going to failure. I find actually that if you're pushing yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 sitting on the couch, 10 the hardest workout you ever did, as long as we're flirting around with that 7 and we leave a few reps in the tank, you are going to elicit a change, right? So you pick a push movement and a pull movement. That's the meat and potatoes of your workout. Then we go squat, hinge, or lunge. And you can see the list in front of you right there that it's going to tell you what you need to work. And all these are very, very basic. Now, which one do you pick? The one that you're most proficient at. I've seen massive things. I take into account people's build, their exercise history, what they have. Like people so often ask me, what about Olympic lifts, Victor? I'm like, if you like them, you can do them. But for me, the cost benefit ratio of getting hurt doing an O lift, if people have a background, a lot of my guys that played football, they had to learn a clean. And so they like getting back into doing cleans, but that's not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to do it. What we need to do is piece together something you can stick with that creates a result to get stronger. If you get stronger, how do you know you've gotten stronger? Well, you measure it a month later. So if we take the push-up on this list, guess what? You do 5, a month later, you could do 20. You are stronger, therefore you've created more muscle. Now you have better endocrinology. Your hormones are functioning for you to help you have better metabolism and better mindset, right? Better bone density, injury prevention. Everyone knows these numbers. Now the squat, hinge, and lunge, you pick one of those, right? You pick which one, then that can vary. That gives you variety. I have a book called The Purposeful Primitive, and the big thing is success leaves clues. It always has. If you look at a big, strong guy, you go, what did you do? He's going to say a certain list. You ask another girl or a guy, they're going to give you a list. Success leaves clues. It's not fancy. It's just which one you like the best or dislike the least. And you can perform with proficiency and get that challenge. Then you leave it alone. I'll give you a hint. If you finish a strength training workout, after about 45 minutes, you should be like, damn, I still feel good. I could go back and do some more. That's when you know that you hit the sweet spot. The sweet spot is hard for people to do. I know because I go through it as well. After this workshop, I'm going to get my workout and I get through it's like 10 degrees out here in Montana. And by the time I get warmed up and get charged up I'm like ready to keep going. But I go, no, pump the brakes, walk away when you're feeling good, and keep that vibration up. That's how you know your endocrinology is shifted to the right way. If you go too long, like the average person, like, okay, well, I got to do my 45 minutes of cardio, then I got to do every machine, and then you're dragging butt, and now you're in the hole from a nutritional standpoint, and your hormones are all out of whack because you overtrain. So that's one of the biggest things I see. So don't overtrain. As a matter of fact, most research shows if you're slightly undertrained, it's better because you have better vibration and energy. All right. So breaking it down to its simplest. Health is actually kind of easy, the way I look at it. First, fix your mobility, your aches and pains. Most people aren't flexible enough to train with some proficiency. So start off stretching a little bit, going into the motions, practicing the specific motions that you're going to use to get you physical change, right? So do you have to sign up for a yoga class? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I've actually seen more people get hurt from yoga than from weight training in my experience. In big part is because people get in there and they're around 20 people. They're like, well, I got to hang with this group, and they pull something. Stretching on your own, great. Can you do a yoga class? Absolutely. Pump the brakes on intensity, work on that flexibility so that you can lift something heavy, right? Now, this is where it gets a little bit challenging for a lot of people. A lot of people go like, hey man, do I have to lift heavy? Guy or gal, yes. You have to lift something heavy to create a shift in your pituitary gland to lay down muscle, right? Well, what if I'm just trying to lose weight, Victor? Well, wait a second. You should be strength training. Your eating should be taking care of the losing weight part, and your movement should be taking care of a little bit of the losing weight part. If you're lifting weights, to me, it's very important that we understand the purpose. The purpose of your strength training is to keep you injury-free and get you playing more, right? Eat real food, and we can go into details. Like if you just get rid of anything with the label, stop eating out and preparing your food, you can negate a massive amounts. Are there things in there? Yes, you can sign up for nutritional accountability. Like what I've seen and know is that I work with very intelligent people. Everyone sort of knows what they need to do, but they still don't make the choices, or they're too much in the hole, like they feel bloated and low energies that they can't have the wherewithal or energy to do the food prep time that they need. And this is where we can come in. This year was big for me because I brought on Daniel, my 22-year-old, who's going to be coaching with me a lot of times and helping me with the nutrition aspect of my clients. Because a lot of times I'm meeting with my clients and I'll gloss over like, hey, how'd you eat? How'd you sleep? Okay. And I'm trying to cover all this within the hour. And I'm like, I need some help. I can't cover all this. And I need to be accountable to nutrition. So he's my nutrition coach for all my clients. And he's basically parlaying, hey, so-and-so says she's been doing this. Look at this is her report. She's not eating how she should. She's showing signs of lethargy and some dysbiosis. We need to interact and have a probiotic. So eating real food alone means a variety of things. And this is a little bit of a personal story about my family. My family is all originally from Guadalajara. I'm a first generation American. And I remember back in high school, people started saying things like, oh, blank runs in the family. So you got to make sure you have your colonoscopy, Victor, or cancer runs in the family. And I used to think to myself, well, my great grandma lived to like 101 years old, eating everything from the ruta to the tuta on every animal she ate, full fat foods, lived on a ranch in Mexico. How come we get one generation into America and now we are predisposed? And what I've surmised from that is that we've gotten so out of touch, and in some part, we're being hoodwinked, bamboozled by companies that are essentially just trying to make more money. Can I blame them for that? Well, I can, yes, because I think it's wrong. The standard food guide pyramid is not really what we should be eating. We should be eating like our ancestors, how our roots have, and whole fat foods, everything that has a mother or seed, and get as close to the sourcing as possible. Spend the money. I always tell people when they say, and these are very wealthy people a lot of times that I'm working with, they're like, well, organic's expensive. And I'll kind of look at them like, are you kidding me? You kidding me? Like, you can pay now or you can pay later. And so let's pay now. And so even if that means eating less. So figure out, if you can't find it or afford it, one of the easiest things and cheapest protein sources, for example, is I've been able to travel the world with my family, and I can always find good sourced eggs. Now, if you're showing some signs of food allergy with eggs, that's another problem. Or can you do it as a vegan? Yes, I'm not here to make your decisions. I'm saying get as close to your sourcing on your food as possible. It will literally start healing you. Absolutely will heal you. All right, number 4, start breathing and breath work. Ooh, this is a big one, and I talk to it. So this is one of the biggest add-ins to what I'm doing with a lot of my clients, is the manner in which they're breathing. And everyone goes like, I say, hey, you meditate? And like, man, I can't sit quietly, Vic. I can't do it. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to call it breath work. And they're like, what does it mean? I'm like, well, I'm going to have you breathe in a certain way for 5 minutes. Why? And then they remember. I'm like, oh yeah, I have breathing dysfunction. I'm stressed out most of the time, and this will help me shift. I'm like, but I blow off steam when I work out, right? True, you blow off physical steam, but how much are we continuing to carry? And so I always tell clients, like, we're just like a manual stick shift, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. We can spend a lot of time in fifth, but we got to bring it down to first gear. And breath work can do that and give us the clarity to work on ourselves and what we actually want. And number 5 is play in many directions. And why this is valuable, and I say play, and play theory, is that there's a couple statistics. The Rise of Superman is a book that you guys can take a look at. And they've discovered that people spend the most time in flow state tend to be the happiest. People that spend the time in flow state tend to be the happiest. Now, why is that valuable? Well, how our body looks and interprets movement is a very critical component. If I go outside and go for an hour run, and the point is to like get in condition for, like, I'm going to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament. If I go out for an hour run, my body's going to interpret that totally different as me going out and skating, kicking a soccer ball around with the kids, even going catching some waves, right? It's going to interpret it different. And because it interprets it different, the demand and the load on the body is going to be completely different. So it's absolutely critical that you find that play theory. You got to do it. You got to do it. If you don't, you're missing out on your gains. I actually told a client this week, she said, hey, I really want to kick it into gear and I want to get ripped next year. And I go, well, you can do that now. And well, don't I have to train harder? I'm like, no, actually, you just got to do the breathing work. I told her. I've seen some pretty powerful things. This last road trip that we took was a 4-month, and I ran an experiment with myself, adjusting exercise quantity and what I brought with me. I lifted weights a little bit less and just worked on my breath work. And because I worked on my breath work consistently, it shifted me down. So the demand on my blood sugar, right? So if you're running from a freaking lion, your body says, we got to mobilize as much blood sugar as possible. So it sucks it all out. And this is why you get that low blood sugar hangry. If you get hangry, it's because you have a blood sugar management problem where your body can't utilize the fat because you're in that fight or flight. And so I ran that. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to work on calming myself down. But friggin' drop 8 pounds just with breath work. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Again, I like to play guinea pig with myself and then give these numbers to my clients and then go find the research. Like, all right, not only did I find the research, the proof is in the pudding. I did it. So if you breathe, all of a sudden you're calm, your body calms down. You can have a better reaction in your body and you assimilate food differently. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So this is what I always hear. And this is, if you've said this to someone, it's all good. It's all good. It's just to kind of let you know where we stand. Everyone says this, I have bad genes. I could have easily done that one. Diets in general don't work. Well, they don't work, right? We've said that. And a lot of it is because the best diet is no diet, but spending time with your food. Healthy food tastes bad. Man, we're about to throw down a nice porterhouse today. That does not taste bad. Yes, there are limits. If you need to have health. You need to be healthy to drop weight. A lot of people will think, well, I'm going to get healthy, so I'm going to drop weight. And then their body resists because they're in dis-ease, right? The big one is no pain, no gain. Yes, from a level of strength training, we do have to go through some discomfort, but I promise you, it's not as intense as you think. As a matter of fact, most of the time I tell people, I'm I used to have a biomechanics teacher named Ed France, and he used to tell me, Victor, you have to know your clients and you have to know your clients, KNOWNNO. And more often than not, I'm telling my clients, no, no more, that's enough, right? Well, but I can do more. But do you need to do more? If the goal is vibrance and activity, do we need to have where our workout as a badge of courage? Like, dude, I did the hardest workout. I'm so hardcore. Cool. If that really is, but it will leave you feeling empty and tired, right? Emotions don't affect my body. I had another individual who used to fly every other week to Brazil to do work. And I remember him, he was just chronically stressed. I couldn't make the gains he drank. He basically fasted all day, had probably in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 cups of coffee. And I remember telling him, like, hey, do you think your stress and your emotions are leading to you not being able to get the results and drop body weight? So how are they related? I go, come on, really? He's like, no, I don't think they're related. I believe in science. I'm like, well, I believe in science too, but I also believe in my 25 years of experience. And everyone that is stressed out, people that are stressed out, not getting enough sleep, emotional difficulties at home or at work, can't get the results that they want. So you got to make sure you know that. You have to starve yourself. No, you don't have to starve yourself. As a matter of fact, by the time I get people to eating right, they're actually like, I can't eat that much. And that's because they're eating good foods and their gut health is on point. 9 out of 10 people that come in, when I have them fill out my health assessment form, are showing signs of dysbiosis. If you don't know what dysbiosis is, I've thrown that word out. Just a quick review on that. That's an overgrowth of bad bacteria in your gut. Now, what is the major problem with that? Well, you're bloated and gassy and constipated and diarrhea. Those are the easy ones. But remember, we have intuition. We have two brains, right? Our intuition sits in our gut, and a lot of our positive neurotransmitters are generated in our gut, right? So feeling good is created in the gut. And so if you're out of whack and struggling to feel good, hello, here it is. So put good food, get that gut health all on point. I guarantee you're going to feel better. You're going to move better. And then you're going to have better intuition, right? Disease and injuries are just a part of aging. Man, I've been hearing this for a long time. So one way to always feel young is to always be the youngest person in the room. Initially, when I started working and opening our facility, I was 19 years old. And the people I work with were always older than me, obviously. And they were always like, oh man, you're so young, wait till you're 25, wait till you're 30, wait till you're 40. Well, I still keep waiting. And I have to tell you that disease and injuries are not part of aging. They are signs and symptoms from the body. Have I've gone through my own disease and injuries? Yes. But I will tell you now, from a quantitative standpoint, I look at the numbers, I'm like, well, I haven't seen much slide back. I do have to take everything into account. And so that little bucket, like food and movement that's going into that's a big part of it. And so we'll continue to unveil what else can go into that. All right. So here we go. Mind and body. This is what we're talking about, is this symphony, this beautiful mixture of energy that ultimately comes down to creating energy that you can use. Meditation and breath work, right, on the mind side. How do I differentiate between breath work? I always start off with breath work with people like, hey, just breathe for me. And then something triggers. And they get deep enough into a specific breath work, depending on what I have them do and their readiness. And all of a sudden they go, wait, there's more to me than I thought, and more going on deeper that I didn't know. And all of a sudden they're like, all right, I'm in. And that's where we start the meditative practice, where you're sitting and quiet. So that breath work usually starts off, my morning meditation, my morning breath work is about the 5 to 7 minutes. Get up, sit up, have my coffee. I'll even have my coffee in my lap. 5 to 7 minutes, get some tunes going, breathe in a certain way. I'll give you one of them. One of my favorites is Breath of Fire. And that's a short inhale, exhale through the nose, coupled with a movement of the diaphragm. It looks a lot like that. What I love about that, it's like I'm sitting down, much like I am right now, ready to go. I'm like, all right, I want to prime my body for what's ahead. So breath work does a wonderful job of that. And at the same time, you got some wheels going. When I sit in the evening and we do our evening meditation as a family, that's about a 10-minute meditation. Oftentimes that's music. And then I'm just sitting quietly and let's see what ping pong balls are going on in your head. Why is that important? To figure out what's going on in your head. Because then you go lay down and you're like, okay, I've organized a little bit. You can write something down after that meditation. Like, oh man, I thought about this a lot. I'm going to write it down. That way it sits on that coffee table or next to your bed, and you've offloaded it. Now, why is this important? And like I've alluded to it in the previous slide, gut health has a significant role on how we're feeling emotionally, right? And so doing this breath work and eating right and moving the right is going to improve that gut health. It's going to help you, give you that intuition and that connection with purpose and pineal clearing, right? And that leads me to this part. Your pineal gland sits right here, and it's responsible for you having some clarity in your life. And one thing that the last couple of years has done is like most people are like, man, I just don't know what I'm doing here. And that's the beautiful part of what's happened. There are silver linings for me, as well as for other people. And yes, it's hard, but by eating the right way, it actually helps clear out some of that congestion that you're having with what's going on in the world, right? And you'll have more clarity with what you want to do and your purpose here. Now, the body, we obviously talked about the strength, the mobility, the flexibility, and the play. And these weave together, give us an opportunity to take health and wellness to another level. All right. Well, this is where you can check out if you want. And this is where we get into different levels of what you need. Now, look, I kind of outlined how you need to take care of it. And so you can totally do it completely on your own. If it's one thing that the internet has really done is like the information's all out there. As a matter of fact, sometimes I'll go on my YouTube and I'm like, man, there's no way I can compete with this. Their delivery's on point. Their look is on point. They're available like 2 or 3 times a day. They're creating content. I just can't compete with that. I'm a stuttering guy who's like, gets passionate and stirs over his words to search to make sure that people understand he's passionate about. There's no way. But I think it resonates with a lot of people. The way I deliver my products, I do it with compassion. I understand people. I have plenty of experience. And now I have a team that I'm building around me for my kids to even, I have my daughter Isabel working with a few clients to help them with their mindset so that they can kind of step into what they need. But I brought on Daniel a lot to help me with my nutrition. And so if you take a look at what we have going on here, it kind of shows you what each level is bare minimum. If you just need ideas, my YouTube and our Fit to Hype program is a huge, I have it there. I already have it. You look up my YouTube, you can go 8 weeks of strength training. It is a bare bones, basic tutorial. Like I basically demo of 4 or 5 reps of each, and the workouts are all set with some diversity. It's really nerded out in my regard because I'm like, all right, vast majority of my clients have a low back. Let's take care of the low back. Let's integrate this. You just pick the resistance, keep the reps within that sweet spot of between 8 and 12, and you can have an amazing program. If you go Coach Victor Robledo on YouTube, you'll find that. You can download that. Also available is our Fit to Hike program, which is a basic, again, hiking is walking, right? And so we designed it to get people to proficiently walk, and that gets people that first step. And so we can share reps, we can share the reps, share the PDF, that's all available to you. Or if you feel like you need level of accountability, in my experience, it really just depends. At the highest level with some of my clients, they truthfully don't show up if I'm not there. But they have the wherewithal to be like, hey, I want to pay you 5 days a week to show up. Yeah, that's there on that platinum level. And it shows you what I have. They have Zoom, they have nutritional accountability, the one-on-one coaching every day. Usually I meet with them on the daily for about a half hour. And when we do that, at that level, that's about me going like, all right, what do you need today? Because I've been checking in with these people. And so you have to be a little more intuitive with yourself to be like, what do I need today? Do I need to work out? Why am I working out? My numbers are going up. I'm stronger, I'm surfing better, rock climbing better, I'm hiking better, whatever it is that remember, you got to get that play. You got to have a reason for training. Now, one step down from that, if you don't need quite as much, you can see on the platinum and gold, that's that high-end coaching. But one thing that's absolutely new that I'm trying to grow is that this bronze level where you've downloaded some of our free, awesome stuff. Even if you need help, our Nutrition Made Simple has all of our recipes and has like, here's a meal plan. Go do it. It's interesting. You know, with our Nomads with a Purpose, we started off an app. And what was interesting is like, we just wanted to give it all away. And we're thinking to ourselves like, man, no one really grabbed it when it was there. It's because a lot of times people have to be in the right space. It's like people are just so overwhelmed with like, man, I'm just trying to get through my day. And I get that, but sometimes we need that little level of accountability, and that's what you have in front of you here. And that's what gives us. And so that weekly Zoom meeting, it's about me creating a group where I'm meeting once a week. And not only am I listening to my group, I'm being like, boom, all right, this is what I want you to work on this week. This is the group that I have. This is the level we're at. All right, did you integrate your fermented foods? And like fermented foods is one of those things that I always think about. Once people's gut health starts to improve, like go eat some sauerkraut, go eat some kimchi, get a kombucha into you. And hey, by the way, here's a recipe. Here's a tutorial on squats. Some people were worrying about their knee pain. I created that. So that's a weekly Zoom meeting that at that bronze level. And then each one goes up. And so if you're just looking for I give you that Nutrition Made Simple and you still aren't like making the gains, you can sign up for accountability with Daniel. I do checks and balances with him on every day. He's my nutrition coach or my nutrition accountability coach. We go over everything. We're going in conjunction with energy. You can pay just for the accountability. If you need a week, if you look at the silver, that's a month, that's a weekly. That's my digital platform, that first touch. How do you get me in your head every week, once a week? Well, usually we're talking anything from technique, hang-ups, potentially doing some healing, like some deep breath work to like undo some programming. We talk about programming. We talk about nutrition more specifically and what hang-ups are. That one-on-one meeting is personalized where we're meeting on the phone or a Zoom, depending on where you're at. We can kind of really get you moving, has the nutritional accountability as well as being part of that group. And then gold and platinum. So here's where it is, guys. I'm going to be using this, posting this up. We're going to be sharing it. If you have any questions individually, you can reach out to me. Both you guys actually probably we've been in touch. So you can reach out to me on how to put it all together. In the end, I know I was put on this earth to help people. I sat back for a very long time because a lot of voices. I'm like, man, people don't want the way I deliver it. People don't want the way I deliver it. But I'm stepping into myself to help a lot of people that need help. Ask me questions. Send me some people that need help. Share this information. Share the information I'll share with you. It's all about helping people, building a little bit of community, getting people to vibrate higher, enjoy their life. Because guess what? There are a lot of upset people walking around. I remember watching black and white videos of Jack LaLanne. And he used to say back in the 1940s and 50s how much people were like, no one smiles anymore. No one's happy. Everyone's overstressed. They eat bad food. It's like, this is not the way the world's supposed to be. And so we can be that change. If we vibrate at a high level and send off good frequency to the world, we can ultimately change our world starting with ourselves.